This is the extratime.com Monday podcast. I'm Oisin Langan. Hope you're keeping safe and well. Remember, as always, you can talk to us via Twitter at Extratime News or at Oisin Langan. Coming up today, Liverpool and Manchester City played out an exciting 2-2 draw in Anfield yesterday. We'll hear from Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola. Joe Gamble will analyse the game for us. He'll also talk about Cristiano Ronaldo and whether or not Ollie was actually right not to start him for Saturday's 1-1 draw against Manchester United. He'll also look ahead to Ireland's clash with Azerbaijan next week. As well as that, we'll have a feature on Shebourne getting promoted. They were relegated last year. They probably shouldn't have been, but in fairness, they stuck together and they've bounced straight back up. There were scenes of tremendous joy and I would say even relief and celebration on Friday night in Talca Park when they beat Treaty United 1-0. There was a large crowd in, and yes, they were celebrating the fact that their team had achieved something good, but I think they were also celebrating the return to normality. It has been a horrific couple of years and people were denied the things they love, and one of the things they love is hanging out with their friends and their club, and they got to celebrate all of that on Friday night. Ian Morris, the Shelbourne manager, will talk to us about what it means to go back up on the first attempt and the challenge that it was to get everyone back together following the relegation. We'll also hear from Kevin O'Connor, Georgie Poynton and Luke Byrne, the captain, who's a very level-headed kind of guy. I really enjoyed talking to all of those guys after the game on Friday night. Treaty United, by the way, it was my first time seeing them in the flesh. They look solid enough. As well as all that, Tom O'Connor of extratime.com will have the usual run through the Irish in the UK, and we'll talk a bit of GAA. Ballygunner winning 8 in a row in Waterford. But after the game, Waterford fans were heartbroken with the news that Stephen O'Keefe will not be making himself available for county selection again. He took a break this year. Waterford got to the semi-final. We thought maybe he'd go back. He's a good keeper. We do have good keepers. I say we because I'm a Waterford man. But he won't be one of them going into the future. And this is what he had to say to TG Cahir after their win against Roanmore in the county final. He'll talk about the whole inter-county squad thing in a second. But first, his reaction to their win in the final. Their 8th in a row. He was asked if it was one of their best.
Yeah, it was really, really good. Yeah, in fairness, even, I know, like I said again, very quiet on the goal, but just watching from out the field, there seemed to be support runners everywhere, and the passes seemed to be going to hand. Any shots they seem to be finding their target. Really, really positive, I suppose, and it gives everyone a lift when you see those things coming off that you're working on in training. Because I suppose over the last few weeks we've been stumbling a small bit with our performances. Certain passes not going to hand, maybe shots going wide, or just the standards we'd set for ourselves maybe hasn't been right up there. But in fairness, when it all comes together today on county final day, you have to be very, very pleased.
I can ask you briefly, will we see Stephen O'Keefe back in 2022 with Waterford?
No, we won't. No, that's finished for me now. In fairness, the two lads, Sean and Billy, are doing brilliant in there now. So there'll be no guarantees. Even if I went back now, there'll be a place for me at this stage. So no, I think so I've given it a good 9-10 years now, and that chapter's finished for myself now. So really enjoying playing with the brothers now, and some of the childhood friends here at Ballygunner. It's after giving me a real lease of life, I think, here. So I'm really enjoying it, and not ready to give it up just yet.
Well done, your victory today.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Ballygunner and now former Waterford goalkeeper Stephen O'Keefe speaking to TG Cahir. I'm aware there's probably 1,000 more GA club stories from the weekend all over the country, in fact all over the world, because I saw New York posting pictures of their commentary team from the junior A and B county finals. I was at Parnell Park over the last couple of days. Coola, former All-Ireland champions, were lucky to get through against St. Bridget's. They required a late rally, Darragh O'Connell stepping up, Con O'Callaghan stepping up. David Tracy was good throughout the game, but some of their big players didn't play well for the 60 minutes, but they did play well in patches, and it was enough for them. They'll have to improve for their quarter-final against Ballyboden St. Enda's. I'm telling this story secondhand, and Aoife is actually here in the room with me, so she can nod or give me the thumbs up or thumbs down as I tell it, because I'm going to report to you what she said. There was a Louth senior football quarter-final between Mattock Rangers and Mocktas, and Adrian Reid, who used to play for Louth, a top footballer, he's a veteran. The co-commentator noticed he was selling the dummy, and he said he's selling the same dummy for 20 years and players are falling for it for 20 years. Now, unfortunately, his team didn't go through. His team are Mattock Rangers, and Mocktas did. So that means it's the same 4 semi-finalists in Louth this year as it was last year. Yes, I'm getting the thumbs up. I'm getting the nod. That means I have the story correct. Anyway, lots more to come on the extratime.com Monday podcast. We will start with football. Joe Gamble will give us his analysis of Manchester City against Liverpool in just a moment. But first, let's hear from the two managers, Jurgen Klopp will talk about how his team were much better in the second half than they were in the first and why that was. But first, here's Pep Guardiola on why he got a yellow card for reacting to James Milner not getting a yellow card, and that would have meant he was sent off, and he really should have been. So here's Pep.
If he was not yellow card, it's because maybe he believes it's not yellow card, but it's too much obvious to be yellow card. He has to show me the yellow card to me, but before he had to show me for the second one. In this type of games, with this margin is so tight, but the both teams are so good, so this is a massive difference. That doesn't mean with 10 and 11 against Liverpool in Anfield, you are going to win. That doesn't mean, but it's too much obvious. So I know that. So everyone has emotions. It's not easy. Do it in Anfield, no truffle. I know it. It's not easy. I know that. But it's too much obvious, this action. So it's too much clear to don't give to James the second yellow.
Quite an exciting game. So with two obviously completely different halves. Thank God that there were two halves today, because the first half was obviously exactly like you shouldn't do it against City. The second half was exactly like you should do it against City, that we cannot. All four goals obviously happened in the second half, but in the first half, can't remember a chance from us, if I'm right. And so I was really happy about the halftime whistle, so that we could adjust a few things. And actually, we didn't change anything. We just told the boys again what we actually wanted to do, or should have done already in the first half. So things like this happen. You against a team like City, with the dominance they can put on the pitch. When you are then a little bit too passive without the ball, then they pass through your lines. You never can really get in the challenges. And what was our biggest problem in the first half, that we didn't play football. No, that doesn't help. You meet for a football game, people come into the stadium and then play football. That sounds wrong and is wrong. So we needed to start playing football in the second half. We did that immediately. I think that was obvious for everybody all of a sudden. City had to run a lot, had to defend completely different to the first half, because we played now really good. And if we would have played only the second half, I actually would have liked to win the game. But together with the first half, I'm not that cheeky. I think the point is fine. Quite an exciting game. So with two obviously completely different halves. Thank God that there were two halves today, because the first half was obviously exactly like you shouldn't do it against City. The second half was exactly like we should do it against City, that we cannot. All four goals obviously happened in the second half, but in the first half, can't remember a chance from us, if I'm right. And so I was really happy about the halftime whistle, so that we could adjust a few things. And actually, we didn't change anything. We just told the boys again what we actually wanted to do, or should have done already in the first half. So things like this happen. You against a team like City, with the dominance they can put on the pitch. When you are then a little bit too passive without the ball, then they pass through your lines. You never can really get in the challenges. And what was our biggest problem in the first half, that we didn't play football. No, that doesn't help. You meet for a football game, people come into the stadium and then play football. That sounds wrong and is wrong. So we needed to start playing football in the second half. We did that immediately. I think that was obvious for everybody all of a sudden. City had to run a lot, had to defend completely different to the first half, because we played now really good. And if we would have played only the second half, I actually would have liked to win the game. But together with the first half, I'm not that cheeky. I think the point is fine.
This is the extratime.com Monday podcast, and that was Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola. We're now joined by UEFA licence holder Joe Gamble. Joe obviously played with Reading, Cork City and Ireland. Joe, how are you?
I'm very good, Oisin.
What did you make of the game at Anfield? 2-2.
Yeah, it was a cracking game, really, wasn't it? It was just a proper game of football. I mean, especially the second half was end to end. The second half was a fantastic advert to a real game of football. Two heavyweights going at it. And sometimes those games, leave you a bit disappointed where, one team don't perform or two teams are just caging, don't want to lose. But it was the opposite day, especially the second half. It was just end to end, proper English type football, really, whereas, two teams going for it. And it was a cracking game, to be honest.
Roy Keane, your fellow Cork man, was somewhat exasperated at the performance of Liverpool in the first half. He gave them full credit for their second half performance, but he was not impressed with their first half performance. And it was the same with Jurgen Klopp, by the way. He said it openly. We weren't great in the first half. So given how poor they were in the first half, mixed with how good they were in the second half, he thought a point was a good result. What was wrong with Liverpool in the first half? What didn't they do that they did do in the second half?
I think they actually, in possession, I think they were looking to go forward too quickly. I think when the ball was turned over in transition, they gave the ball away far too easy in the latter part of the first half. But I think in the first half in general, they won off the ball. I don't think they pressed as well as they did in the second half. I think Liverpool are a team that have to play. Well, it seems like they have to play with high energy, high press, full of running, full of enthusiasm, full of endeavour. And I think in the first half, they probably showed Man City a bit too much respect. I mean, at the end of the day, they're a home team. Okay, the full capacity. Liverpool fans going mental. Or they expected Liverpool to play like they did in the second half through the whole game. And maybe if they tired in the second half, fair enough. But I think the first half, they were poor in a lot of aspects, really. In possession, they were poor. As I said, I think they went direct too quickly. I know, obviously, that you have the likes of Salah and Mane, and you have good attacking players like that and Jota, but I mean, especially two lads, Salah and Mane, who are very, very quick and like to play off the shoulder and get in behind you. But they probably just went in behind too much, too soon, and then Man City just didn't give the ball away. I thought, look, Man City were fantastic in the first half, especially the away team. And the dominance, as you said, from Man City was, I mean, Liverpool's first shot and goal with 50 minutes in the game, and Jota spun, I think Diaz on the edge of the box. That was the first shot on target. So that would show you how dominant Man City were in the first half, especially.
I'm always fascinated by changes in how a team is playing in a game, during a game. Did Jurgen Klopp change anything around tactically for that second half, or did players just quite simply work harder, play better?
I don't think he changed tactically. I think there was just an emphasis on, right, listen, just go and press. Press as a unit, press as a front three, get the midfield behind that front three and get maybe the back four up. So you condense the pitch. So I know Man City are quick, but I think the biggest problem that Liverpool had, and I think Man City identified straight away, is they didn't have a natural right back. Milner, as good as he is, isn't a right back, and Foden had him on toast, really. Like, he had him all game. He could outrun him, he could outsmart him. You could see even when Kyle Walker had the ball from one side to the other side of the pitch, he was actually looking to diag the ball early to Foden, and you could see that was a ploy that Man City looked to quite a lot. And look, I think, for me, I think Foden could easily had two goals when in the first half, when Bernard Silva did an unbelievable mazy run in the middle, put the ball in behind Milner. Foden runs in it, and you kind of expect him to score them, of his ability, and he doesn't. And then I think as well, I think it's a penalty as well. And the first half, I think Milner used all his experience, comes across Foden. I mean, he didn't touch the ball, but he did enough to put Foden off, and he makes contact with him. So is Foden too honest to stay up? Does he get punished for that? I think he shouldn't. I think that's a penalty as well. He
said afterwards, look, I don't really dive. I'm an honest player. But he didn't want to kind of get into the business of asking for another player to be sent off. Pep Guardiola made an interesting comment on that particular incident. He picked up a yellow card himself for protesting, by the way, at one of those incidents. He said, look, this happens in Anfield, this happens in Old Trafford. Yeah. And he more or less said, look, you just have to get on with it.
Yeah, but that's wrong, though. I mean, no matter what you are, like what level or what club or what stadium you're in, I mean, look, you got VAR. That's why didn't they go and check that out? I mean, it's such a big decision. Like, if you hear the commentary, you hear Gary Neville saying, going, ooh, straight away you know that's not a dive or it's a contentious one, where you could just tell straight away. So, why not go to VAR? Why not? If Foden goes down so and the referee thinks it's too easy, is it not a booking for Foden for simulation? Is it not worth checking? So, I mean,
the frustrating thing is, Joe, that there's questions left when there's no need for questions to be left, because that's exactly what VAR was brought into, to stop these questions.
Exactly, absolutely. That's what I mean. They're for goal. It's basically for penalty decisions and for goal line technology. I mean, that's the main reasons why they were brought in. I mean, look, it has to be checked. I mean, he didn't touch the ball. He didn't get nowhere near the ball. He impeded Foden's run. He didn't. Okay, this is where maybe Milner's experience came in. He didn't do enough to like take him blatantly down, but he did enough to put him off and touch him enough. Like so, I think it's a penalty. To be quite honest, I do think it's a penalty. I think Man City were unlucky not to win at half time, at least 1 or 2-0 up. And that's probably where maybe the difference with Liverpool and Man City is. I think Man City miss more direct players. Maybe Foden very direct today. No, he's not direct, but if you look at Salah and Mane, they're very direct. They're full of running behind. They're full of pace, full of power. I think Man City missed a bit of that. I mean, Jesus isn't that type of player. He's quick, but he doesn't use it enough. And then the Grealish experiment didn't work. You know, I thought Grealish. I didn't even know did he even play. He had such a poor game. So I think.
Yeah, and just for people who didn't see it, he was in a more central position. He essentially was a striker.
Yeah, he was like a false number 9 sort of. But I think Grealish slowed the game down too much for that. I think he's going to take time to get used to their style of play. But I think looking at Grealish, like he's so good, but he likes to slow you down, and then he's so quick over 5 yards, he'll go past you. Where Man City and they're kind of more position passes. They're running onto the balls. They want quick play. They don't want 3 players slowing down the game unless there's 2-3 up and they're keeping possession based. In the opinion in their box, it's different. But away to Anfield, like Liverpool are too good to be. Liverpool get behind the ball, and it's very, very hard to break down. A bit like Chelsea, Chelsea get behind the ball. It's very hard to break them down, no matter how good you are. So Grealish needs to kind of have that extra gear where he needs to play the game quicker, not always slow the game down. I just think he slows the game down too much for the style and for the players that Man City actually have.
Has he a future in that position, or do you think he has to be kept wide, or certainly not in that false 9/striker position, whatever you want to call it?
Look, we can't really judge a player after one game, really, but look, it's probably an experiment. It just didn't work for the lad. I mean, maybe that's his first time playing there. People might say, look, he's top draw player, he's a £100 million player. That's not his tag. He wasn't. That's not going to do him. But he isn't that type of player. To be fair to him, I mean, he's not a Harry Kane that drops in, and Harry Kane's a big stature of a lad, big man, can't go around him. Grealish is okay. He's small in stature and he's stocky and strong, but he isn't used to playing with his back to goal, and it's a total different skill receiving on the ball in a half turn out wide and receiving the ball with your back to play. It's a total different ball game, so he's going to take time. But ultimately, I don't know. I suppose I just don't know.
After what you've seen in the game yesterday and what you saw against PSG and maybe even last week against Chelsea, a game I know they won, are there still question marks about City in an attacking sense? The fact that they don't have that kind of absolute striker. I saw Ronan Mullen from Off the Ball in the Irish Examiner make the point on Twitter earlier on that this is nearly a vanity project for Pep. He nearly wants to prove he can be successful without an out-and-out striker. So there's that. Also, there might still be worries about their defence, even though I think it was Diaz made that fantastic block for the Fabinho effort. But Rodri was it? Yeah, beg your pardon, but Rodri. Are there still question marks in those two positions?
Look, I think with the whole Pep Guardiola and as in you were alluding there to his vanity, I mean, look, it's widely known that they threw the kitchen sink and house and everything up Harry Kane to come. So he isn't naive, and I think it's been unfair to say that because look, if they weren't adamantly going for Kane, you could easily say, look, I think Pep is trying to be too clever here and trying to show people how good he is. Maybe we're not playing with number 9. So I think that's it's a bit harsh on him on that respect because they did try to get a number 9. It's obviously a position they need. They need a striker. They need a striker like the Salah and Manes who are going to get you goals. They're going to cause defences some serious problems. I mean, like the problem that you have really with Man City is, look, even today in the first half, Cancelo, the left back, I thought he was probably the best player in the pitch in the first half. And then the second half, you can see his defending is poor. You get at him. I mean, Salah run past him in the first goal. He stuck a leg out. Like, I mean, it was actually embarrassing how he actually tried to defend that. No, okay, it's on the half line. Salah's still got to run, 40 yards to put man in, but still in all, I mean, look, that's poor defending. And Salah runs through and he slips a man in, and I think they're missing that type of power, number 9, who wants to run in behind, because look, you've got De Bruyne putting balls through, you've got Foden putting balls through, you've got Bernardo putting balls through. I mean, like, what other players do you want in the world to put penetrating balls through? They need a number 9 who's going to get in behind a bit more to capitalise on that. In terms of the defending, look, I don't know how many defences that can stop the first goal, to be quite honest. I mean, besides Cancelo throwing the leg out, other than that, it was just pure quality from Salah and Mane. I mean, Mane's run is absolute top drawer. Unless Ruben Diaz goes with him and actually probably, fouls him, I don't think he stops that run. It's too good. And the second goal, I mean, you've got Bernardo trying to slide tackle in. He falls on his arse. Cancelo's behind him and Foden. The three of them they're not great defenders, let's be honest about it. That's not their job. But the goal is probably a bit too easy for Salah. But then on the other side, it's a hell of a goal from his point of view. Do you know what I mean? So, but before that as well, I could be wrong, but I think, did Man City not concede a goal bar Wolves, is it, for so many games? So, I mean, defending.
Sorry, I should clarify. You're absolutely right. Their stats would suggest there's no problem. But against Liverpool today, against PSG during the week, granted, look at that top three for PSG.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, I should admit that I'm cogging something I heard from someone else. I was watching ESPN FC. It might have been Stevie Nicol who was making the point that he still wasn't convinced about their defence. Now, the evidence is there to suggest that it shouldn't be questioned, but I said I'd bring it up. And now I feel kind of silly because I copied someone else and I've been cut out.
No. I think it's probably too easy to throw that at someone, because I think before he's possession-based football and he wants to play from the back. Look, that's his philosophy. He's won leagues like every club and every league he's went to. So we can't just say he's defending. Look, you can't have it both ways. You either be like Chelsea, you're going to drop behind the ball, it can be very, very hard to break down. You can be counter-attack. You can be Man City, you can be open, you can be possession-based. Of course, when the ball turns over, you're going to have to be open. You can't have your fullbacks all wide and high and your midfielders high and wide. But when you lose it in the blink of an eye, they're going to be back narrow. They're not 100-metre athletes or freaks of nature that they can run that fast. Kyle Walker's the fastest fullback in the world probably, and even he can get caught out of position because he wants to play football. So you're going to have to concede sometimes. And you know what? Sometimes you've got to give the opposition credit. I mean, first goal was a brilliant goal, and second goal from an individual point of view was another brilliant goal. Yeah. Other than that, Liverpool didn't get their first shot on goal 50 minutes in the game. So they're at home and they have their first shot on target 50 minutes game. And if I was a manager, and I was away team, I'd be absolutely delighted. So, I think maybe a bit harsh on the defending side of it. Maybe bigger games to come. Let's see how they're doing. But I think so far, so for Man City, I think, I mean, the Chelsea one for me was the biggest game they had in the last three. There's a lot of question marks going in that game. And I think they absolutely destroyed Chelsea at home. I mean, they pressed them. They didn't give them a sniff. They could have easily won that game by more. They were exceptional. So I think, I wouldn't be writing out Man City. I wouldn't be too judgmental. I just have this game.
Yeah, I just checked out their stats as you were talking. And from 7 games in the Premier League, they've conceded only 3 goals, and 2 of them were against Liverpool. And as you mentioned, they were both good goals. I want to talk to you about Manchester United before we move on to Ireland. Cristiano Ronaldo was brought off the bench yesterday against Everton. It didn't work in the sense that he didn't score, but that, of course, doesn't mean he didn't make a positive impact. But Everton got the draw. It seemed like he was angry at the end of the game, Ronaldo. He was walking off in a huff. And my worry for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is Ronaldo is now a more powerful figure than he is at the club. And they might react to his mood as opposed to Ole's want. I mean, the higher echelons. It's a dangerous game for Ole at the moment, isn't it?
It is. But look, if you're again, probably looking from both angles, looking from the manager's point of view, we're playing Everton at home. We have Cavani as a number 9. I mean, let's be honest, he's not a poor number 9. He's not an average number 9. I mean, that's why you've got a squad of 20-something players. I mean, you can't keep playing the same players every week. If Ronaldo has to play every week, so United have to win every week, is there a danger then come the business end of the season that, it's all too much? Is he burnt out? Is he given enough rest? Look, he's not 26 anymore, not 21. He's 36. Okay, he's a freak of nature. The man's got a body of a goddess. He looks at himself as good as you've ever seen any footballer, but there's limitations in everyone too. And to keep a happy squad, you have to play Cavani. I think Everton at home, Man United have to fancy them chance to beat him whether Ronaldo starts or not. So I think from a manager's point of view, I don't think he got it wrong. Look, they drew the game, so he got it wrong. If they won, there'd be no one talking about the game about he was dropped. Ronaldo comes on and goes off in a huff. He's probably not going off in a huff necessarily that he didn't start. He might have gone off because he wants to win. And I mean, the man's used to winning everything in his path. I mean, how many leagues he won, how many games he won on his own, how many individual awards he won. I mean, look, he could open up. He has a museum, obviously. He could open another museum with trophies if he wanted to. But I mean, look, so I think it could be just an individual. That's where probably the media And I mean, look, that's why they're so powerful. They'll turn this into, oh, he's angry with all this kind of Scotia because he didn't start. He may have been angry because someone didn't pass the ball in the last minute, or someone didn't do something that they should have done,
or Andros
he
Townsend tried to imitate his impression, and afterwards Townsend did say it was a tribute rather than a Mickey take.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I mean, look, it's his idol, as he said. I mean, look, surely that's flattering for any footballer there. Like, I mean, I don't think he was trying to take the piss out of Ronaldo by any means. I mean, or Man United were like, but I think from that point of view, look, it's poor because they've started really well. They've had a few poor results, and all of a sudden now they're kind of, they're not up to the top end where Chelsea's and the Man City, and they don't look as if they're firing on all cylinders like them, like those three teams. So there is a bit of concern in there, but unless you're probably Sir Alex Ferguson or Klopp's or the Peps, or you got a big statue behind you, Ronaldo's going to outshine any manager. So unfortunately, at the moment, there is question marks being asked. But I mean, give him a bit more time, I suppose.
Yep, that's fair enough. Let's talk about Ireland. They play Azerbaijan away next weekend in a World Cup qualifier that I would describe as vital, even though we're pretty much out of the running. What did you make of the squad selected by Stephen Kenny last week? Will Keane of Wigan has been included.
Look, I think he's obviously trying to experiment with players maybe for the future. Like, I mean, look, we're not going to qualify, let's be honest, but that doesn't mean that there's no pressure on to win games. I mean, the higher you go up in the groups, the better seed you have for the next campaign. So we can't just be, bringing players in willy-nilly. And I don't think he's bringing players in just because maybe he saw something in Will Keane. He maybe saw, his scouts would have saw something in him. So I think they're just obviously trying to prepare and try to cast the net out as far as they can to get as many players in the radar as they can and really see who's up to it and who's maybe not up to it going forward. I mean, that's probably what it is. I mean, he could be just, he might never get a cap. He might be there for the training camps and have a look close on him without really actually coming on. So who knows?
5 goals in 10 games for Will Keane in League One. He is in form. How would you like to see Ireland go about this game in Azerbaijan next week? And do you think the fact that it's actually away from home takes some pressure off us? Because you've spoken about this. You've spoken about how we should nearly approach the games against the likes of Azerbaijan the same way as we did against Portugal.
Yeah, I think so. For me, I think the type of players that we have, I wouldn't say the culture in Irish football, because look, that's probably a bit harsh in terms of, I just don't think we're technically based and are proficient enough to always be the aggressor, always be on the front foot. And look, I'll refer maybe to Man City, for example. They always have possession and they're always pinning things back because they are the best players in the world. They're technically gifted, right? If we start promoting that too much, where we have to always be on the ball and we're always being the aggressor and we're always trying to, what happens is we'll make mistakes in vital areas and we get punished. And all of a sudden, we play great, but there's no anything after but. It doesn't mean anything. Like, we have to have, I think we're better suited to not have the ball so much, be in a bit more of a defensive mind, but a defensive mind to then spring attack. I don't mean just to defend, but maybe not have possession so much. Maybe that's fine. Let them have possession in their own third. Let them play around a little bit more. Set traps a little bit. Be a bit more. Because what we are is we're unbelievably hard-working. We're unbelievably aggressive. We're unbelievably, I suppose, how to say, on the front foot. That's the type of players that we are. We're very good on the front foot. So let Azerbaijan come out a little bit. Let them try to play a bit. And then bang, pounce on them. And then break with the bit of quality we have. And, we have got good players in those final areas. And we have got players that will hurt you. I mean, we do have good pace. We do have good athleticism out wide. I'd like to see us do that. It mightn't be Stephen Kenny way, but I just think it would suit us as a nation and the type of players we have to be a bit more defence-minded to then transition to attack. That's what I would think, personally.
Funnily enough, I think under Kenny, Dundalk got some of their best results doing just that. Against Bate Borisov, Bate would have owned the football, and Dundalk did what you were talking about there. They picked their moments. They went on the break.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes you got to put your hand up and understand that you're not really going into the game as favourites. So you're not. No, I'm not saying Azerbaijan. We should be. I'm not saying that they are favourites either. Don't get me wrong. Like, we are better than them, right? Let's be honest. We are better than the team, but you still got to go and prove, and you still got to go and win the games. But like, we're away from home, and it's a tactic. I mean, look, Chelsea do it. I mean, France won the World Cup in it. I mean, look, I've said it before. Like, there's no shame on looking at tactics, thing, right? Okay, that's what managers do. Let's look at this. Let's pick the style. We did it away to Portugal. Okay, at times we maybe pressed a bit more than what I thought we did, but we ultimately did get behind the ball. We were hard to break down. coach got more and more frustrated in it. Okay, besides Ronaldo scoring 2 unbelievable headers, we'd have got away from an unbelievable result there. I mean, that was a tactic there, wasn't it? So just because you're playing a lesser nation doesn't mean that it's a lesser tactic. You don't have to be seen to always be on the ball. It's when we break, let's work on having good quality passes forward, good runners forward, get into the box with numbers, ring the box with numbers. Let's see if can we get a goal on the break and keep doing it. I mean, look, I think it suits the players that we have, and I think it suits our tactics away from home. That would be my opinion, rather than trying to play out all the time and then make mistakes and then get punished for it, because we're trying to be something that we probably ultimately are not.
And as you say, it seems, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I get that I'm a complete non-expert here. We do have pace. Connolly and Ida can play that game plan that you've been talking about there, that kind of breaking at pace. Jamie McGrath will be excellent as well at that.
Absolutely. That's it. Like, it's not like we're playing behind the ball and then when we win it, we're like, okay, what are we going to do now? We don't have that explosive pace to get to, like, we don't have ball carriers, or we don't have, as I said, the explosive pace to get it behind them, or we don't have fullbacks like the Coleman and the Doherty, top fullbacks that can bomb on and carry the ball. So we do have that in abundance. We do have that ammunition. So we're getting behind the ball to really break on you, not just to get behind the ball and keep the scoreline down. And when we win it, or we clear lines, or let's hope for a set piece, and maybe Duffy might come up and Egan might come up and score. Listen, they're great assets as well. So we have ways of scoring from set pieces, but we also have a way of maybe scoring from counter-attacking football. But I think it suits us. And like, if we're at home and we can't break down the likes of Azerbaijan, and if they get behind the ball, then if we're not able to break them down when we have all the ball, well, what countries are we able to break down? And I know that might sound a bit harsh, but that is the truth, isn't it? I mean, if we can't break the smaller nations down when we have a lot of ball, then change the tactic a little bit. I mean, we didn't do it to Finland at the start. There's a lot of teams that came to Aviva that we would be on par with, or maybe slightly better in, and we weren't able to break them down because we have a lot of the ball. We just don't have that sort of quality. Okay,
Joe Campbell, formerly of Cork City, Reading, Barnet, and the UEFA qualified coach. Thank you very much for joining us on the extratime.com Monday podcast.
Thanks, Oisin, no problem.
Still to come, Tom O'Connor of extratime.com will round up the Irish in the UK and beyond. And now, though, we're going to honour Shebourne because they've bounced straight back into the Premier Division, having been relegated last year. The situation was simple going into Friday night's game against Treaty United. If they won, they were back up. We brought you the game live on extratime.com.
It's all over and Shebourne are back in the top flight. It wasn't a brilliant performance against Treaty United this evening, but across the course of the season, they have been the best. Shebourne 1, Treaty United 0. Shebourne are back up and the pitch is being invaded. Scenes of pure joy here in Talca Park.
Ian Morris, Shebourne manager, how does it feel to have guided the club back to the Premier Division?
Ecstatic. Delighted. I'm mentally worn down at the minute. It's been a long year. It's been a long. The last 5 minutes of that game was long as well, let me tell you. But delighted, thrilled for that dressing room up there. They've been fantastic. They've had to deal with so much this year, and I don't think they've been given the credit that they deserved for the pressure that they've been under constantly. The other full-time teams in the league, I think, has been brushed under the carpet, and these lads have puffed their chest out this year, and they performed every week. Even the one loss that we have on the board, disappointed with that, because I felt that performance has been strong enough to go unbeaten, and that little black mark is on the book. But we want to get 9 points from our remaining 3 games, and that's the focus. We certainly won't be taking the foot off the pedal.
What about you? Is there a feeling of vindication? Because it would have been easy for you to run for cover, and it would have been easy for the club to say, geez, Ian, I'm not sure about this when you got relegated last year. Neither of you did that. And tonight we've seen the result of that, and it's a very positive result for Shebourne Football Club.
Yeah, look, I hope the owners, the board, the shareholders, that they can see what I can bring, and what the staff can bring, and this group of players can bring. And
but I think you saw that last year in the tough times when it would have been easy for them to make a call or panic, and they didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, even last year, you talk about the only time we were in the playoff spot was the last game of the season. Yeah. So it wasn't all doom and gloom. It was just a mad month. But look, the only thing about last year is it was a massive learning experience, and it probably gave me more learning experience than 5 years of just glossing over it and getting away with it, probably, because you take in so much, you learn from it a lot. It's easy to paper over cracks, but look, this year we're another year fitter, another year more experienced, and we'll kick on for next year. And we started planning already, which you have to prepare for every scenario, and we'll kick on. And like I said, there's boys there that we'll need to speak to, and we'll have a look for next year. We've got to start planning, but we'll look after the end of this season, and we'll kick on.
Michael O'Connor, I think that was such one of the characters of the team. You've got a few characters in this team in a good way.
Yeah, we have.
How much did you need that, especially during, we'll say, when you were playing in front of no fans? You nearly had to create your own buzz as a team.
Yeah, you got to have crack. You got to have characters in your group. You can't have robots. You have to have lads who can play off the cuff. You have to have lads who can bring a bit to the change room, and we've got that in abundance up there. There's some good fellas up there, and we've some only feckers as well, let's put it that way. But I think as a group, it's brilliant. They buzz off each other. They have a good bit of banter between them. But when we work, and there's no messing with that. There's no shying away from it, and that's been testament. I think every game this year we've pumped on and we've kicked on, and I don't think anyone's outworked us.
And it would have been easy to shy away from the challenge, but you didn't.
No, not at all. Like I said, you have to have that resilience, you have to have that grit and determination, and when things aren't going right for you puff your chest out, you roll your sleeves up and you go again. And we've had to do that. Sometimes when you don't speak, people might think this, that or the other, but nothing has changed from our objectives and how we want to kick on. And
you say that planning has already started for next season. What kind of challenge does planning for that step up kind of pose to you as a manager? Because it's joy tonight, but I don't know you that well, but I think I know you well enough to say you're already thinking about it. You're already thinking, all right, what happens next? You'll give yourself tonight, and I think you should. But tomorrow morning,
yeah, no, look. There's levels. There's levels in football, and it's a step up, regardless. So, we won't be. You look at some of the deals being done already now for next year, we won't be in that bracket. And we've got to be really smart and really clever in our recruitment and make sure we get the right types in, and fitness wise, we've got to be really, really at it. So all of them considerations to be taken into. There's a lot of lads in that dressing room who have previously played in that level and haven't, but we think can excel at that level. And then obviously there's other recruitment that we have to look here and abroad and see what happens.
And just before I let you go, how did you feel at the end when the fans took to the pitch and there was just this joy around the place, and there was a sense of relief and there was a sense of just kind of wow, there was a sense of wonder? Now that wasn't just football related. I think for a lot of Shelbourne fans, they were celebrating the official end to them of the worst time in modern history, having been relegated, but also that little pandemic. Yeah. There was so much going on there, wasn't there?
And there was a lot of emotion. Let me tell you, there was a lot of emotion on that pitch. There was teenagers crying, which was powerful in its own sense. But the joy on there when you've got people coming up and thanking you is takes you to another level. And if you don't get the meaning and the passion and what it means to people, football clubs, and the responsibility that you have to look after them and make sure you do really well with the club, if it's the responsibilities in your hands, that's a stark reminder tonight that how important it is to people.
And I think even when they weren't here, you got a sense that those people had your back. They were behind you. That means a lot to you, I imagine.
Absolutely. Look, you'll always have people who'll question your decision making as a manager, and that's what it is. But the love for the club has always been there, and it's really shown through.
Georgie Poynton has stepped up to take it. It's Poynton against Ryan. Remember, Shelbourne will go up tonight. They'll seal their promotion if they win tonight. Poynton is replacing the ball on the spot. He's being made to wait. It made a difference for Fernandez last week. Will it make a difference for Poynton tonight? Poynton steps up and sends it home. Shelbourne lead by 1-0. 29 minutes gone in the second half. Shelbourne 1, Treaty United 0. Tonight could be the night that Shells seal their spot back in the top flight.
Georgie Poynton of Shelbourne, how does it feel to have sealed your club's spot back in the Premier Division?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I think there's just so much emotion at the minute because, I was here last year, obviously, when the club went down, and to come back now and get it over the line this year and right it wrong with the players. To right it wrong with the players that have stayed here, the staff, it's been incredible,
Darren Cleary, who's a huge Shells fan, says you were a hero. You were a hero tonight. You got the goal. How nervous were you taking that penalty? Because you hadn't played particularly well, chances were hard to come across, and you might have thought to yourself at the time, this is the only chance we might get.
Yeah, I did think it, to be fair, but I was confident because I've hit penalties my whole life growing up, and I've scuffed a few. I probably haven't done myself justice taking them at Shells over my time here, but no, Ryan didn't want it, and I was confident to take it. I had to be confident because I had to take Michael O'Connor off the penalty. So no, I was sure that I was going to score.
And how did you feel when it went in?
I still feel like that. The emotions is unbelievable. It's just, I promised Johnny Watson, the kit man here, that we go straight back up this year, and just to do it for someone like that, who lives and breathes this club, it's phenomenal. And it's just, words can't describe it at the minute. I'm a bit speechless, to be honest.
And how important is it that you went straight back up? Because look, the argument is there that you were too good to go down in the first place, so you probably needed to go back up. There was pressure on you. Yeah, well, I was reading comments and saying that the league is done because we had a bit of a gap, and the league wasn't done. It was hard for players to stay focused, and we had that drive there. We wanted to get it over the line ultimately, and I think maybe we started nervous tonight for 30 minutes, and then we kind of grew into the game. I thought in the second half we were the better team. We weathered the storm for 3 or 4 minutes at the end, but no, ultimately, look, it was brilliant to get it over the line tonight. Talk to me about these scenes and have a look around as we're here. It's calmed down a lot now, but there's still an awful lot of people on the pitch. There's a joyous mood. There was flares, flags, all the usual colour. Talk to me about what that means to you, having been through what you've been through the relegation, through playing in front of no supporters, and now back to the top flight.
Yeah, unbelievable. Just to have the fans, you hear them going out there, and they were 12 man tonight without a shadow of a doubt. They made noise when we were under the cosh a little bit. They stuck with us, and to have them back in the ground is phenomenal. And hopefully now we send it off on a good night. UCD the 29th is here, full crowd. Hopefully the restrictions are fully lifted and we have a full house for it and we can enjoy our night.
Shells are back where they should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank God.
Well done, Georgie.
Thanks so much.
Fair play, lad. Thank you. Luke, you're the captain. So how does it feel to have led your team back to the Premier Division?
Yeah, it's it's a huge achievement, and it's obviously an honour personally to be captain of the team and the football club. We had one goal all year. We sacrificed. We missed out on things. We basically did all that with one goal, and that was for a moment like that tonight. All the sacrifice, the hard work, the number of training sessions, all those things, and the things you miss out on, it's all worth it. You do it twice over for a moment like that tonight, sharing it with people in the club and your family and your friends.
I'm sure it all seems worth it now, but take me back to the start of the season. Were you starting from a low ebb, having gone down when maybe you shouldn't, or were you actually starting from a base of, you know what, we're a good team, we can get out of this division, let's have a crack off this?
Bit of both, to be honest, Oisin. It's like number one, we looked at, you look around, you see the signings that have been made, and you think, we are good enough to win this league. If we don't, it's our own fault, really. No one should beat us if we hit our levels. But then there was just a bit of a gloom hanging over the place that was unavoidable. Personally, I had a big hand to play in it, the way the season ended for me. So I came back injured, suspended, and feeling quite guilty, as a lot of other lads did, I'm sure. But the manager did. He did a really good job in terms of keeping some lads that were there and then freshening up the rest of the squad, because I think had we come back with 90% of the lads that were there last year, criticism of them, all good players, I just think it would have been more difficult to lift the spirits and set new targets and stuff. So credit has to go to him for that.
Talk to me about the scenes tonight. You did what you needed to do. You won the game. It wasn't your best performance, but no one's going to remember the performance. They'll only remember the feeling after. We're on the pitch now where it's relatively quiet. But earlier on, the place was absolutely packed with fans. They were carrying flags. They were all wearing red. Some of them are still around celebrating. Talk to me about what it was like to kind of see that release of emotion, which wasn't, by the way, just about Shelbourne Football Club. I think they were celebrating the end of lockdown. They were celebrating the end of the worst time in modern history.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'd seen at the end of 2019 up in Drogheda what it meant to the people of the football club, and I got to meet people I'd never met before and speak to them, and saw that outpouring of emotion. So I was expecting similar tonight if we won, but I think you're right. I think tonight was something greater. It was people whose lives revolve around this football club and coming here on a Friday and, coming with their kids or their parents and their friends, and it's a big part of their lives, and they had it taken away from them for so long. So, tonight was probably, like you say, it's obviously celebrating winning the league, but it's also celebrating maybe a bit of normality returning, and people feel maybe their lives are back on track now, and we're obviously glad to have played a small part in making people happy.
I think before lockdown, I would have said as a commentator, fans are important. You would have said as a player, fans are important. Fans would have said as fans are important. But we didn't actually realise how much they bring until they weren't here, until they were gone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound ungrateful, because we were allowed to play football during lockdown. A lot of people couldn't work and they couldn't do what they loved. So we at this club were continuing to get paid and allowed to come training when the majority of the country was closed down. But in terms of the competitive side of the game, the Friday nights and the games last year, football was shit. Obviously the season didn't go well personally for the team in the end, but just in general, I'm sure you'd say the same. The novelty wore off quite soon, and it was just dead. And you can see, whether it's watching the games in the Premier League or coming to games now recently here, the intensity is lifted. There's more emotion, there's more aggression, there's more passion. Just feels like there's more at stake, and that's what football's all about, really.
And you do notice it on the pitch, the supporters and fans, especially on a night like tonight. It was magical. It was a great feeling around the place. And I'm not a Shebourne fan, I'm a neutral observer tonight. But even I thought, this is special. I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, it was a great night for the club, and it was the result of a lot of hard work from a lot of people. And just coming together at the end there, you have, all sorts of people, different generations, a huge outpouring of emotion. And it's, like I said earlier, one goal, and we've achieved that, and hopefully made people happy, like this man here next to me, Johnny Watson.
Lukey Bone's a legend.
Georgie Poynton said you were a legend. He said he's glad he's done it for people like you. How does that feel?
Well, I feel like his father, because I've been looking after him all year round, so I probably feel like he's out for, you know what I mean? Great lad, George. They're not everyone brilliant lads. They're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant, yeah. Amazing.
Lads, well done. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Kevin O'Connor of Shelbourne, we're standing on the pitch in Talker Park where you have just sealed your promotion back to the Premier Division. How does that feel?
Yeah, that sounds good, all right. No, look at the scenes, it's excellent. It's great to have the fans back. There was a little bit of an expectation around us tonight, and I thought for the last 20 minutes of the first half, I thought we were excellent, and the second half we obviously got the goal and we were able to hold on. So it's a great feeling. You can see how much of a buzz it is around the place. It's great to have everybody back, and we're delighted we could do it for them.
The pressure was on you to bounce straight back up, wasn't it? And that's hard to do. So talk to me about that response and your season at large and in total.
Yeah, I think, look, there's an awful lot of new players, a lot of experienced players, which helped a lot. It was always going to take a few games for us to settle in. First few games we probably didn't hit the form, but we started to pick it up along the way, and I think we just got ruthless with teams. I think we just got a chance and we took it. We might not have been playing our best, but we were winning games, and it makes a massive difference. Our game at the start of the year was straight back up, and we're just delighted we could do it.
Do you think you would have let Ian down and maybe let the club down had you not bounced straight back up? Was there pressure, and how did you handle that pressure?
There was always pressure, but coming from them, they didn't really put the pressure on us as players, and that kind of showed. I thought throughout the year we played with freedom. We played brilliantly sometimes and got wins and got draws, and we didn't play as well other times and we got wins, so there was always pressure to bounce back up, especially with the calibre that was in the squad, and we showed that we were good enough to go back up.
I think no one tonight will remember the performance of the result, but they'll remember this feeling. Just have a look around you as we're talking here. These are wonderful scenes, aren't they?
Yeah, unreal.
Made even better by the fact that we didn't have these scenes for a long, long time. We didn't know if they'd ever come back.
Exactly. And the fact that they only started coming back a good crowd towards the Wexford game, so we've only had a couple with them, but for them to be here tonight, it's massive, and it's massive for everybody. They've been away for so long, and we're delighted to have them back. They really spurred us on. As you said, the performance won't be remembered, but it didn't matter how we got it. We just got 3 points in this meeting.
This is the ExtraTime.com Monday podcast, and we're joined by Tom O'Connor of ExtraTime.com. Tom is going to talk to us about the Irish in the UK and beyond, and by beyond I mean Josh Cullen in Belgium. Tom, how are you?
Not so bad, Oisín, not so bad.
I have a non-football related question before we start. Have you seen the new Bond movie?
I haven't.
Okay, well, we won't talk about that, and I won't spoil it for you, don't worry. Let's talk about the players who have been named in the Irish squad for the game against Azerbaijan next weekend, and then the friendly against Qatar next week.
Yeah, I suppose, Oisín, look, we saw during last week Stephen Kenny naming the squad, and you have a mixture of youth and experience. You have a mixture of lads who are playing regularly and lads who are not playing so regularly at their clubs. And you have a couple of loan moves. It's a mixed bag, but it's probably been more positive this week than in previous weeks. We have 2 of the goalkeepers named are playing regularly. We have our defenders. There's most of the defenders are playing regularly enough. Midfielders are playing with Jason Knight coming back. We've players who are playing regularly at a decent level, and then up front it's probably a little patchy, or Aaron Connolly's maybe not getting the amount of minutes that we'd expected, and James Collins with his move to Cardiff just isn't getting as many games. It was Kiefer Moore, Welsh international Kiefer Moore, is keeping him out of the squad. So hopefully between this set of games and the next international break, maybe we'll be in a position whereby more of the forward players are getting more regular game time.
Let's start with the players in the Premier League. How are they doing?
Well, actually, it was a good weekend in the Premier League. Jeff Hendrick came on as a sub in the 36th minute against Wolves, scored for Newcastle against Wolves. His last goal for Newcastle came last December in a 5-2 defeat at Leeds, and of course his last goal for Ireland came in Mick McCarthy's first returned game in charge in the game over in Gibraltar. So it's not often that Hendrick scores, but look, it was good to see it this weekend. Kieran Clark played 90 minutes for Newcastle. Nathan Collins made his Premier League debut for Burnley as they drew 0-0 against Norwich, and Shane Duffy continued his fine start to the season as his Brighton side drew 0-0 against Arsenal. Aaron Connolly, like I mentioned there, remained on the bench throughout, while for Norwich we saw a cameo role for Adam Idu come on in the 90th minute. So mixed, but some positives there with the Nathan Collins debut and obviously Jeff Hendrick's goal. Championship-wise then, Jimmy Dunn of Blackrock, Dundalk fame, we mentioned him in previous podcasts, he scored for QPR. Sammy Smodic, who would have turned up in Stephen Kenny's under-21 squads, he scored twice for Peterborough against Bristol City. And also for Peterborough, Jack Taylor, who Stephen Kenny mentioned was close to the squad. He came on as a sub almost on the hour mark to replace Conor Coventry. And then for Bristol City, we spoke about Callum O'Dowda being back in the Bristol City squad. Last week, he got 62 minutes as he started that game. Richard Keogh, whose story was in the media during the week, he got 45 minutes as Blackpool beat Blackburn 2-1. We spoke about goalkeepers getting competitive games. Mark Travers, his Bournemouth side are now 11 games unbeaten, and they won 2-1 against Sheffield United, for whom Enda Stevens and John Egan both played 90 minutes. Also 90 minutes in the Championship was Callum Robinson, whose West Brom side lost 1-0 to Stoke. And we also saw Jason Malumbi appear as a sub in the 80th minute for West Brom. So look, like we spoke about Jason Malumbi last week, not getting game time, but I mean, it's good to see him there, at least getting off the bench this week. And there also mentioned James Collins earlier on. His Cardiff side lost to Reading. He also got 10 minutes as a sub. While on the flip side, we saw Jason Knight get full 90 minutes as Derby drew 0-0 against Swansea. And it was good to see Festi Abasele come on after 64 minutes there for Derby. And on the Swansea side, Ryan Manning got another 90 minutes under his belt. Hull beat Middlesbrough 2-0, and ex-Cork City defender Sean McLaughlin came on as a sub after 42 minutes for Hull. So after a spell in Scotland last season, now it's good to see him getting some minutes in the English Championship.
Woohoo!
I know, look, he's a good player. He's a long future ahead of him, hopefully. And he's a big man. So look, it's hopefully the start of a very long career in the Championship, or even at a higher level for him. Then down to League One, Daryl Horgan scored his first goal for Wickham to inspire their comeback over Morecambe. They won 4-3, and former Sligo Rovers striker Jonah Young actually scored for Morecambe. Then Anthony Scully scored a penalty in the 90th minute, which was his 9th goal in 9 games for Lincoln. Gavin Bazunu kept a clean sheet as Sunderland were beaten 4-0. And Peter Kioso, who is a Swords native, he scored for MK Dons. Usually we hear of Troy Parrott scoring for MK Dons, but on this occasion, Troy Parrott did get an assist. But Kioso scored he's on loan from Luton Town, and he scored his second goal in 3 weeks.
That's
and
a huge
his first
win,
goal.
Go on, sorry, finish your sentence.
No. His first goal a couple of weeks ago was a glorious goal, lovely bit of interplay down the right wing, and it was the goal of a veteran, not somebody who's on League One from a championship team. It was a lovely strike a couple of weeks ago.
And we've seen it with Will Keane, who scored again at the weekend to make it 5 and 10 in the league. Stephen Kenny is looking at players at that level, and they will be picked if they're proving their worth. It is interesting, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm criticising Stephen Kenny because he knows far more about it than I do, that Will Keane was brought in and Scully wasn't, despite the fact that he scored, 9 goals?
Yeah, well, that's his 9th in 9 games. And
wow.
I think it's 6 in the league and 11 in this season overall. But Keane's a bigger player, physically bigger specimen. And Keane is more of a link player, Stephen Kenny's spoken about. And it's interesting, actually, that whereas he would have
not having a Tom Kenny out. That makes up my mind.
You're not going to get that from me.
Yeah, you're certainly not going to get it from me seriously either. Go on.
No, it's interesting. Look, I'm not going to pretend to know a huge amount about Will Keane. Let other people who are better versed in Will Keane, he kind of burst onto the scene maybe a few years ago whenever himself and Michael would have been talked about, and then Michael obviously has gone on to have a bigger career, and Will has went on into the lower leagues. But Stephen obviously has kept an eye, and he spoke about how he's been used as a link player more so. And we would have seen David McGoldrick being used as that kind of a 10 or a roving kind of a player, and McGoldrick's not getting as many minutes for Sheffield United this season, so it's interesting to see that Stephen Kenny, instead of kind of trying to change the formation, that he's going to maybe stay true to that roving forward player and trying to find somebody to unearth a gem, so to speak, in that area. So it's interesting that Will Keane is coming in there rather than, like you say, somebody who is finding goals more prolifically at that level.
And you would hope as well that Will Keane goes through what I would call the McGoldrick effect of getting a bit older or getting a bit better as he gets a bit older. Because when McGoldrick was playing under Mick McCarthy, I remember people saying young McGoldrick, but he wasn't young at all. Will Keane is kind of the same. He's been around a while. He's in his mid-20s. He started at Manchester United. He's had a few clubs. We spoke with Shane Supple about him back actually on Friday, if people want to go back and listen to that chat, because there's still an awful lot of relevant stuff about the Ireland squad in it. But yeah, it's interesting that he's kind of going for that model again. And if he can be as good for Ireland as McGoldrick was, then we may have stumbled across something that is the missing part, perhaps.
Look, that's it. And people can look down their nose and say, well, he's only a League One player and he's only this and he's only that. But like Jamie McGrath not so long ago was playing in the Premier Division in Ireland.
Yeah.
Went straight into St Mirren's squad and was a regular for them last season, scored an awful lot of goals last season, and is a fixture in the midfield of a Scottish Premier Division side. I know he scored a lot of penalties last season, but I mean, you still have to get up, take the penalties and score them. And look, we saw Gavin Bazunu saving from Ronaldo. We saw Bruno Fernandes missing penalties. Penalties are only easy when you score them. So like McGrath was that good. He didn't suddenly develop incredibly when he moved from the Premier, the top level in Ireland to the SPL. And in the same way, Will Keane, maybe because he's not as recognised because he's now moved to League One, I don't think we can turn around and be snooty about it. Like
Listen, if there's one thing my time in PR and marketing has taught me, it's that people are comfortable with brands and what they know. And they don't know Will Keane. And it's as simple as that. Tom, we better wrap it up. Have you got much else?
Nothing huge. Just talking about Scotland, St Mirren once again had their 5 starters as they beat Livingston 1-0 in the Premier League. So look, it's great to see 5 Irishmen getting regular game time. There's a few little moves and bits and pieces. Ryan Sweeney, who would be a former Irish under-21 cap, he scored as Dundee were beaten 3-1 by St Johnstone. On yesterday, then Johnny Hayes played the full game as Celtic launched a smash and grab to beat Hayes' Aberdeen. Obviously, Hayes played for Celtic as well. And for Celtic, Scales and James McCarthy remained on the bench. There is a young player on loan from Stoke, Ethan Varian, who is doing very well up in the Scottish Championship for Wraith. And also there was a former Bolton and Wolves centre-half who was at an Irish under-21 cap and is now gone on loan. Mark Connolly's his name. He's gone on loan to Dunfermline. He was out with an injury and stuff like that. It's good to see him getting back. Made a move to Dunfermline during the week on loan to get game time. Would have been a regular for Dundee United last season. He's back out getting game time. So look, it's good to see him getting game time. And on the flip side of that, I don't know if I mentioned it last week or not, but very best luck in his recovery to Dara O'Connor, who would have come up in conversation before Dara's with Ayr, and he dislocated his shoulder. So the very best luck to Dara in his recovery. And that's us.
You mentioned that lad Ethan, who's playing in Scotland. Is he good? Do you rate him highly?
Look,
that wasn't a serious question, by the way. I was just setting up my own pun there. But if you do happen to know something about him, by all means, fill us in.
I know that he's not the only young Irish player very good at Stoke, at underage at Stoke. There's a guy from Dundalk, Leixlip native, who would have came from the same stable as Andrew Mbamdele. His name is Gabriel Adebambo. He would have been at Dundalk for a while. Gabriel left to join Stoke last year, and he's a talent. He is somebody we need to keep an eye on. He's very, very, very talented player. Can play 4, can play 6, can play 8, can play 10. Keep an eye out for Gabriel Adebambo. Currently playing for Stoke's on the 23. He's a former teammate of Andrew Mbamdele. Would be of that same crop with that Ethan Varian is. So I know you started off as a joke, but Gabriel Adebambo, keep an eye on him in years to come.
Okay, Tom O'Connor of extratime.com. Thank you for joining us. Where can we find your work?
At LOI Moonshore or at Extra Time website.
Okay, Tom O'Connor, thank you.
No problem.
Well, that's it for the extratime.com Monday podcast. We're back on Friday when, amongst other things, we'll talk about Ireland's trip to Azerbaijan and, of course, the SSE Electricity League weekend. We'll have that and more on Friday. Remember, you can talk to us via Twitter at Extra Time News, or you can talk to me directly on @Oisín Langan. To keep on top of everything Irish football-wise during the week, follow extratime.com. That's it from me. I'll talk to you Friday. Take care. Bye-bye.